Hi, this is Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and my project today is a Father's Day card that is very grungy and mechanical because I am using the brand new Tim Holtz 3D texture fade called Mechanics and some aluminum tape and alcohol inks to create this cool and funky background. So this is the aluminum tape, and I'm going to be sticking it down to an A2 sized piece of 100-pound cardstock, so it's 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2. And aluminum tape is a product that you can pretty much find at any hardware store. I imagine it's used in plumbing, probably to seal seams between pipes. I'm not really sure, but it works really, really well with alcohol ink. So it's a fun and cheap way to get the look of metallics on your paper. So you just fold it around. It's super sticky. And you peel off the backing, and then you just can fold it around your paper. And because it's super thin and it's just basically aluminum foil, it really doesn't add any bulk to the back of your paper if you just fold it around. It's like no big deal at all. Now it's kind of tough to get the backing off because it's really, really stuck. So I have to say my Elizabeth Craft Designs tweezers were amazing for that. I don't really have fingernails, so it worked really well. Now I am definitely purposely overlapping the seams here on the tape because I wanted to get, the sheet metal look, like where they're sealed together, kind of, since this was going to be a very mechanical background. And now I'm going to grab a gift card, and I'm going to use that, and I'm just going to kind of burnish down and really get all the wrinkles out of the aluminum tape. And I'm sorry it's so shiny, but it's the nature of the beast. Now I've got my alcohol blending tool here with a piece of felt on it, and I'm just dotting 3 different colors of green onto the felt. So it's bottle, meadow, and lettuce. And then I'm just going to twist my hand as I tap this onto the surface to get this sort of funky colored pattern on the tape. And I was thinking I'd add some rose gold there, but I decided against it. So I went back to the bottle. And now I'm going to add some Cotta, which is like an, orangey red brown, because that I was hoping was going to look like rust. The green I was sort of going for patinaed metal, and then the terracotta was to sort of add a rusty look to it. I don't think it really effectively looks like patina in the end. It's a little bit too brightly colored, but I didn't mind. I just liked the colored effect. I thought it was pretty cool. And I'm just dotting some alcohol blending solution onto the felt, and now I'm tapping it down, and you can see it creates these dotted effect, and that was really cool. I really liked that quite a bit. It looks like sort of dots of rust around here and there. And you can just continue doing this until you have as much or as little color as you want onto the panel. Dries pretty quickly. And now I'm going to add some gunmetal metallic mixatives. So you saw me mixing it there. You do have to mix the metallic mixatives. And I'm trying with the blending tool, but that doesn't really work. So I'm just going to dot it onto the panel, and then I'm going to blend it out with my blending tool like so. So again, I'm kind of twisting my hand a little bit to get it blended kind of erratically. And you can see it adds a really dark, it is shiny, but it's not as shiny as the aluminum tape. So it adds a really interesting sort of aged look to this metal panel. And now I'm adding some rose gold, and to be honest, I don't think the rose gold really did much. You don't really even see it in the end, but it was worth a shot. I was playing around, and it turned out well, so it doesn't matter that it's on there. I just wanted to see what would happen. And there you can kind of see the look in the end. And here's the star of the show. This is the Mechanics embossing folder. It's super, super thick, so it adds a really deep impression, and it's really, really detailed and super cool. So I'm going to run this through my Gemini die cutter here, and how I did that was I used a base plate, the folder, and then the metallic shim on top of it. That was the only way I could get it to fit through my Gemini because it's so thick. So if you have one of those, that is my recipe, and you can see how cool it turned out. There. And now I'm just adding distress ink over the top, and I'm taking the ink right to the panel and just rubbing it on. And it's really catching on the raised portions more than anything else, but I didn't mind if it got down into the crevices too. I was just kind of trying to really grunge this up. So I used ground espresso. This is tea dye. I will also use black soot. And I'm going to try adding some color with Dusty Concord here and some chipped sapphire. But the color, it didn't really work. And it doesn't really show up. So I don't think that's even necessary. I would just stick with the browns and the black. Now, be aware, Distress ink will not dry on aluminum tape, so you will have to seal this if you use Distress ink. Now, I'll talk about sealers later, but if you don't want to go to the trouble of having to seal it, you could, instead of using Distress ink, you could use StazOn ink or archival ink instead, and that will dry on the aluminum tape. But you can see I just kind of highlighted the areas with the inks, and then I rubbed it down a little bit into the grooves, and it really added a really nice grunge effect to the panel. So for my greeting, I'm stamping Happy and Father's Day from the Lawn Fawn Happy stamp set. I'm going to stamp it in Gina K Designs dark chocolate ink onto some 100-pound white soft, or it's not soft, it's just regular cardstock. And the brown was to match sort of the brown I had going in the panel. The panel has a lot of green and brown in it in the end, so that seemed to be kind of the color theme. And I wanted to grunge up the greeting too, like having it just be all pristine and white, given the panel being all grungy seemed weird. So I'm using my blending tool and I'm blending on some ground espresso. And now I'm just going to kind of try to mess up the edges of the paper with my scissors, just like by rubbing it along the edge and then kind of ripping off portions of it. I don't have one of those distress tools, so I just use my scissors to kind of mangle up the edge of the paper. It worked pretty well. And I will rip quite a bit more off of this than what you see me do right now. You'll see it in a little bit. And then I'm adding tea dye. So those are the same two colors I used on the panel. And that's going to be very brown, like the brown ink for the greeting and the brown grunginess. So I decided to add some green with peeled paint. And I'm just dabbing this on randomly. I'm not going for any particular order. It's just making it look aged. And there you can see I have kind of torn up a little bit more off that greeting. Now I have these gears for embellishments, and these are from Creative Embellishments. It's a website, and these are chipboard and they are laser cut, so they're super detailed. And I did paint them with black gesso to turn them black, and then I have these metallic rub-ons. I'm only showing you one here. I use the copper color in that one, and then there's a color called walnut in the other set that I just stuck on with my finger. I just rubbed on with my finger kind of lightly onto the black. Now there's the sealer I used. It's Krylon Kamar Varnish. You have to spray it in a very well ventilated area and then let it dry for like 2 hours, but that'll seal it in. And then I have a piece of Gina K Designs black onyx cardstock, and then an A2 sized card base out of 100-pound cardstock. I did trim the embossed panel down to 4 by 5 1/4, so we'll get a black edge all the way around it. And when I did that, the sides were pretty bright silvery, and so I went all the way around the sides with some ground espresso before I sealed it. And then to make sure that this is going to stick really well to that cardstock, I'm using Elizabeth Craft Design's 10mm double-sided adhesive tape. Because it's so textured, I wasn't sure the ATG gun would really hold it well enough, so that tape will definitely do the trick. Now to hold my chipboard gears on, I'm going to be using some art glitter glue, which is liquid glue obviously, and it holds just about anything to anything. So it's one of my favorites, especially for like wood pieces or metal pieces or paper onto wood. It does a great job with that. Now you do need a fairly thick coat. I initially put on too thin a coat for these larger pieces because that paper it's sticking to is so textured. A thicker coat of the glue is necessary to get it to really touch onto all of those funky like bits and pieces, raises and lowerings on the paper, if you will, to get it to really stick. So you'll see me have to do a second coat on those two bigger pieces here in a second. And then to raise up the greeting to level with the gears, I'm putting foam tape in the areas where the gears are not supporting the greeting. So just had to size it down pretty easily and just trim them apart. And that was all there was to that. So pretty easy. But here you go. You can see me add it really is a thicker coat. It doesn't really kind of look like it in the video, but it's pretty thick. And then I got a heavier item to hold them down. And so now I'm just going to remove the backing off the adhesive on the foam tape and stick the grating down, although I've bumped the gear on the right down too far, so I have to push that up a little bit. And then the final gear is going to go on the lower right corner of the grating on top. So sticking this glue to paper is the best thing you can do with it, so it works like magic. And that's the completed project. Not too complicated, not too difficult, only a couple steps involved, but it has a pretty cool result, largely because that embossing folder is so detailed and so cool. And I think in combination with the aluminum tape and the alcohol inks, it makes a pretty cool statement. So hopefully I've inspired you a little bit to break out your aluminum tape and your alcohol inks and get some of those cool 3D texture fades from Tim Holtz and make some funky, awesome cards. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment because I love getting comments. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do that as well. As always, supplies are linked in the video description and over on my blog. And here are 2 more masculine cards I have done in the past, so you could check those out as well. I hope you have a really amazing day. Thanks!